It started with a missed call, then three. Amara's mother, who worked as a nurse assistant, had collapsed during a night shift. By the time Amara got to the hospital, her mother was already on life support. A stroke, they said. Severe, she lasted 3 more days. That was the first hit. The second came faster than anyone expected. They lived in a small rented room with no father in the picture and no extended family willing to take her in. When the rent expired, the landlord gave her 7 days to leave. I can't house a minor alone, he said. This isn't charity. She packed her entire life into one black duffel bag. Her school books, 2 changes of clothes, her mother's old scarf, and the last photograph they took together. Amara grinning, her mother holding a small cake with "You did it" iced on top. She slept the first night on a friend's couch, the second in a church back pew. By the fourth night, she was beneath that billboard, hugging her bag and whispering, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." But she cried anyway. Days turned into weeks. She learned where to find food, usually discarded bread from a bakery that closed at 7. She used the bathroom at a bus terminal, brushing her teeth with water from a bottle. She kept going to school like nothing happened, arriving earlier than anyone else so no one could see her wrinkled uniform or smell the streets on her. No one knew, not her classmates, not her teachers, no one. She smiled when they spoke to her. She answered questions like a genius. She even won the math competition and then went back to the shadows afterward. But one day, something snapped. It was a Thursday afternoon. She was walking out of school, eyes low, trying to avoid attention. She didn't see the boy until they collided. Her bag hit the ground, papers spilled, and before she could scoop them up, the boy noticed something strange. A half-eaten granola bar in a used paper napkin, a roll of tissue packed with gold, and a notebook with emergency shelter locations scribbled in the margins. He paused, looked at her. "Amara," he said slowly, Are you okay?" She stared at him, froze. This was Dayo, the quiet boy from physics class. They had spoken maybe 3 times in the past year. Why did he care? She snatched the papers. "I'm fine," but her voice cracked. And that's when Dayo did something she didn't expected. He said, "I know that crack in your voice. I heard it once too." That was the moment everything started to shift. But Amara didn't know it yet. She was still holding shame like a second skin, still sleeping near train stations, still dreaming of her mother whispering, "You are going to change the world." But something had changed. A spark had flickered, and a boy had noticed. Amara didn't speak much that night. She sat by her usual hiding place, an abandoned bus stop 2 streets from her school, watching street lights flicker like confused stars. Her uniform was damp from earlier rain. She brought her socks, which were mismatched. Her notebooks was called from being stuffed in her bag too long. But her mind was on Dio, that boy she had barely noticed before. The boy who had said, "I know that crack in your voice. I had it once too." What did he mean? The next day she tried to avoid him. She walked faster through the hallway, skipped lunch entirely, and sat at the back of class. But during last period, a note slid onto her desk. It wasn't dramatic, just 4 words written in neat handwriting. "Library after school, please." She almost didn't go, but something made her turn back. The library was nearly empty, golden sunlight slipping through the high windows. Dayo sat in a far corner, a book opened but unread. He didn't greet her with pity or concern, just a small nod. Then he said, I was homeless at 13. Amara's spine straightened. She didn't speak. He continued, voice calm. My dad died. My mom left. I lived behind the mechanic shop for a year, bathed with a bottle, ate crackers for dinner, smiled in school so no one could ask questions. He looked at her now, his eyes gentle. I don't know where you sleep, but I know that look. The one where your body is in school, but your mind is just trying to survive. Amara swallowed hard. No one had ever said it out loud before, not even her. She whispered, I'm not safe. Over the next few weeks, a secret friendship blossomed. Not loud, not flashy, just two kids carrying words no one could see. Dayo showed her how to stay invisible when she needed to and how to ask for help when she really needed to. He gave her a second-hand jacket, a list of soup kitchens, and one golden rule. Never stop going to school even if the world burns around you. Show up, that is your superpower. Amara nodded. She didn't just show up, she shined. By the end of the term, she ranked first in her class. She cleaned herself in public toilets before exams, revised under street lights, chewed mint to stay awake after sleepless nights. But trouble came when the school counselor, Miss Oduko, noticed her fainting during PE. Amara blamed it on skipping breakfast, but Miss Oduko had seen too much in her life to believe that. She called Amara in after class, closed the door, spoke softly. I know you've been hiding something, Amara, and you don't have to, not anymore. For the first time since her mother died, Amara broke, fully broke. She told Miss Oduko everything, the hospital, the eviction, the rain, the fear, the hunger, the shame, the ache of pretending every day that she was okay when she was breaking from the inside out. Miss Oduko listened. Not once did she interrupt, and when Amara finished gasping through tears, she didn't offer pity. She offered options. You are not going back to the street, not tonight, not again. That night, Amara slept in a real bed, in a youth home connected to the school, safe, warm, full of other kids who had stories behind their eyes too. She still missed her mother every second, every hour, but now she had people, she had purpose, she had Dayo, and she had a dream worth fighting for. The youth shelter wasn't perfect, but to Amara it felt like a palace. She had a dream and a bed, a pillow, a lock on the door, a place to charge her phone, a roof that didn't leak, and people who smiled at her without expecting anything in return. For the first few nights, she barely slept, not because of fear, but because safety felt foreign, like she didn't deserve it. But slowly her body remembered what peace felt like. So she did her dreams. Miss Oduko didn't stop at rescuing Amara. She became her mentor, her guardian in every way but blood. She gave her extra books, taught her how to apply for scholarships, and even helped clean her school records so universities wouldn't ask too many questions. Then one day she handed her a flyer. Bright red letters. It read, Nigerian National Rising Stars Scholarship for students of extraordinary potential and resilience. Amara shared and stared at it. This is real? Miss Oduko smiled, yes, and it's yours if you want. The application wasn't easy. She had to write 3 essays, submit proof of financial hardship, and include a recommendation video. It was due in less than 2 weeks. Amara poured her entire heart into it. She wrote about her mother's fate, the night she spent studying beside mosquitoes, the people who saved her when the world didn't care, and most of all, the burning desire to matter, to make something of her life, not just for herself but for every kid who had ever slept under a billboard and dared to dream. Dyer helped her shoot the video. He held her phone, took her to speak from her gut, not her grammar. Forget big words, he said. Speak your truth. That's what moves people. She did, and it did. She got shortlisted. Final 10, then final 5, then final 2, but there was a twist. Only one student could win, and the other finalist was a well-connected student, well known for a highbrow private school whose parents were already lobbying the scholarship board. Suddenly, things turned political. News started leaking. An anonymous blog questioned Amara's story, suggested her hardship was a lie for sympathy votes, accused her of playing the orphan card. She was crushed. I didn't lie, she whispered to Miss Oduko, tears brimming. I only told the truth. I know, Miss Oduko said, but not everyone wants the truth to win. Then came the worst part. Someone emailed a photo to the scholarship committee, a photo of Amara from her homeless days, curled under a bench, her face blurry but her school bag clearly visible. The board paused the decision. The rumor that Amara had been in illegal care and wasn't a safe candidate for a national award. It felt like the whole world was punishing her for surviving. But that night, when she wanted to quit, a knock came on her shelter door. It was Dayo. He had his phone in hand and fire in his eyes. I uploaded your story, he said. The whole truth is already got 10,000 shares. What did you say? She asked. I said you are the story this country needs. The next morning, everything changed. People from all over the country began sharing their own struggles. Kids in ghettos, in slums, on the streets, tagging Amara's name. Her video went viral. Suddenly, the story was bigger than a scholarship. It was about every underdog who had ever been overlooked. And in that noise, something amazing happened. The scholarship committee reversed its hold and named Amara Daniels the winner. The day she got her scholarship letter, Amara stared at the email for so long she forgot how to breathe. We are proud to offer you a full ride, including tuition, accommodation, and a monthly living stipend. It felt like something out of a movie. From sleeping on bus stop benches to getting a place at one of the top universities in the country, and not just any program but the prestigious Political Science and Leadership Initiative, where future governors, diplomats, and global thinkers were groomed. Amara packed what little she had. Miss Oduko hugged her like a mother would. Tayo walked her to the bus station and handed her a small notebook. On the front, he had written in black ink, "For the girl who refused to stay small." She didn't cry until the bus pulled away. University was a different planet. The buildings were taller, the wets bigger, the students colder. Amara quickly realized that being brilliant didn't mean people would accept her. Her accent stood out, her clothes were cheap, her shoes were from the free shelter bus, and worst of all, everyone knew her story. The viral video that had given her the scholarship had also made her a symbol, but she didn't want to be a symbol, she just wanted to belong. Her roommate Tiwa was rich, polished daughter of a senator. At first, she smiled a lot, offered Amara tea, even complimented her essays. But after a few weeks, Amara noticed something strange. People would whisper when she passed by. Lecturers asked her odd questions like if she really wrote her own papers. One day she opened her laptop and found half her assignments missing, deleted. She panicked, hours of work gone. The IT department couldn't retrieve the data, but the technician quietly said someone used your system at 2 a.m. yesterday. Amara had been asleep in the same room. That night she pretended to sleep and watch. At 2:11 a.m. Tiwa stood up, slid Amara's laptop from the table, plugged in a flash drive and began typing furiously. Amara's heart thawed in her chest. She didn't confront her, she recorded her. The next morning she showed the video to the dean. What followed was a media scandal. Tiwa was suspended. The senator tried to cover it up, but Amara had learned receipts are louder than status. But instead of celebrating, Amara broke down. I didn't come here to fight every day, she told Miss Oduko over the phone, her voice shaking. I just want to learn. Is that too much? Miss Oduko said something she will never forget. Your life is teaching the world even when you are just trying to learn. But don't let them make you bitter. Let them make you better. So Amara changed her strategy. She joined the student council. She started a podcast called From the Ground Up, sharing anonymous stories of students who had risen from poverty, rejection, abuse, and still made it. At first, only a few people listened, but then a major radio station shared her story. The broadcast exploded. Suddenly, students who once ignored her were lining up to be featured. But the biggest twist came one evening, an email from TED Lagos. We would love to invite you to speak at our upcoming event. We believe your story is not just inspirational, but transformational. She gasped. She reread it 5 times. Then she picked up her phone, dialed one person, Dayo. When he answered, she whispered, You told me never to stop showing up. He replied, And you did more than that, Amara. You lit up the whole room. Then Amara stepped onto the third stage. Her palms were sweating, the lights were blinding, the crowd was silent. She could barely make out the faces, but she didn't need it. Because this wasn't about them, it was about her. The girl who once studied under a broken street light. The girl who ate dry garri with no sugar and still whispered, Thank you, Lord. The girl who cried herself to sleep on a cardboard mat and still got up for school the next day. The microphone buzzed. Her heart pounded. Then she spoke, but not with fear, with fire. I was 15 when I became homeless. Not because I ran away, but because life ran out on me. My mother died. My uncle said there was no room for me. I begged. I slept in corners. I nearly gave up. But education was my rebellion. Every book I read told me I didn't have to stay where I started. Every test I passed was my way of staying. Today, I'm not just a student, I'm a survivor, I'm a scholar, I'm proof that hope is louder than circumstance. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Even the event organizer wiped his face. When she stepped off that red dot, the applause didn't stop. People lined up to hug her, thank her, ask for a photo. Some whispered, I was homeless too. Others said, You just gave me the courage to go back to school. And then she saw him in the corner of the room. Faded jeans, quiet smile, familiar eyes. Dayo, she gasped. He smiled wider. Surprise! Took the first bus this morning. She ran into his arms. You are the reason I kept going. he whispered, and now you're the reason others won't stop. Months later, Amara was featured in a major newspaper. She got invited to speak internationally. NGOs reached out, brands offered scholarship. She even got an email from Harvard about a leadership fellowship. But she never let it get to her head because her heart was still with girls in torn uniforms, boys selling gala on express roads, students reading with candlelight. She used her influence to start a foundation, Street to Scholar, dedicated to funding the education of children in slums and shelter. She raised millions, built libraries, mentored teens, changed laws, and every time she told her story, she ended with this: don't let where you sleep define how far you can go. I was homeless at 15 and now I'm building homes for others.